Matt Damon was quietly sitting in a crowded Los Angeles cafe when it all happened. A nervous young waitress, overwhelmed on her first day, stumbled through the chaos and accidentally hurled a glass of juice straight onto him. Juice dripped down his face, his clothes were soaked, and dozens of phones were already recording the moment. But instead of anger, instead of demanding an apology or compensation, Matt did something so unexpected it changed both their lives forever. What happened next became one of the most shared videos of the year, and when the world realized who he really was, the story turned into legend. To continue listening to this beautiful and special story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Write your name and the city you're watching from in the comments so I can include a special shout out for you in an upcoming story. The California sun painted Los Angeles in golden hues as Emily Rodriguez tied her apron with trembling fingers. 21 years old, fresh out of college and drowning in student debt, she had landed her first job as a waitress at Sunset Cafe, a bustling spot in West Hollywood known for its celebrity sightings and overpriced lattes. This was her first day, and everything felt overwhelming. The morning rush was in full swing, with business executives checking emails over espresso shots, influencers staging perfect breakfast photos, and tourists hoping to catch a glimpse of fame. Emily's manager, Janet, a stern woman in her 50s, had given her a 15-minute rundown before throwing her into the chaos. Table 7 needs their order taken. Table 3 is still waiting for their pancakes. And don't forget to smile, Janet barked, her voice barely audible over the coffee machine's constant hissing. Emily grabbed her notepad, took a deep breath, and approached her first table. Her hands shook slightly as she wrote down orders, spilled a bit of cream while refilling coffee cups, and struggled to balance multiple plates on her tray. The veteran waitresses glided between tables with effortless grace, making Emily feel even more clumsy and out of place. Meanwhile, outside the cafe, a man in athletic wear and a cycling helmet was locking his bike to a street pole. Sweat glistened on his forehead from his morning ride through Griffith Park. He wore simple running shorts, a faded Boston Red Sox t-shirt, and beat-up sneakers. Nothing about his appearance screamed Hollywood royalty. This was Matt Damon, Academy Award winner, box office champion, and, as of 6 months ago, CEO of a revolutionary tech startup focused on sustainable energy solutions. But today, he wasn't Matt Damon the movie star or the business mogul. Today, he was just a guy who wanted a cup of coffee and a moment of normalcy. The decision to venture out alone, without his usual entourage of assistants and security, had been spontaneous. He'd woken up feeling suffocated by the bubble of celebrity that surrounded him constantly. Board meetings, script readings, red carpet events, charity galas. His life had become a carefully orchestrated performance where every moment was scheduled, every word calculated. So he'd grabbed his bike, ignored his assistant's calls, and decided to explore the city like a regular person. He wanted to remember what it felt like to exist without the weight of expectations, without people treating him like a commodity rather than a human being. As he entered the cafe, Matt noticed the organized chaos immediately. Waitresses weaving between tables, the constant ding of the kitchen timer, conversations overlapping in a symphony of urban life. He found an empty table near the window, where he could watch the morning crowd while enjoying his coffee in peace. Emily, meanwhile, was struggling with Table 4's complicated order when she noticed the new customer. He looked approachable, patient, not like the businessman at Table 2 who'd already complained twice about his eggs being too runny. She decided to serve him next, hoping for a straightforward interaction that might boost her confidence. Emily approached Matt's table with a nervous smile, her notepad ready. "Good morning, welcome to Sunset Cafe. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Matt looked up from his phone and smiled genuinely. "Just a regular coffee, black, and maybe some orange juice. What would you recommend for breakfast?" His kindness immediately put Emily at ease. "Our blueberry pancakes are really popular, and the avocado toast is great too. Everything's made fresh. I'll go with the pancakes, thank you." He glanced at her name tag. "Thank you, Emily." The fact that he'd taken the time to read her name and use it made Emily's day a little brighter. Most customers barely acknowledged her existence, treating her like a serving robot rather than a person. She hurried to the kitchen to place his order, feeling more confident. Maybe this job wouldn't be so terrible after all. Matt seemed like the kind of customer who made the service industry bearable, polite, patient, and genuinely appreciative. But the morning rush was far from over. As Emily navigated back through the crowded dining area, balancing a tray loaded with drinks for table 6, disaster began brewing. The business executive at table 2 was gesticulating wildly while on a phone call, his arms flying dangerously close to the narrow aisle between tables. Janet's voice cut through the noise. "Emily, table 9 needs their check, and don't forget the orange juice for the gentleman by the window." Emily turned toward Matt's table, the glass of fresh orange juice wobbling slightly on her tray. She'd been doing well so far, but the combination of Janet's urgent tone, the busy atmosphere, and her own nervous energy was creating the perfect storm. The executive at table 2 suddenly stood up, still shouting into his phone about some failed business deal. He stepped backward without looking, directly into Emily's path. She tried to swerve around him, but the movement was too sudden, too sharp. Time seemed to slow down. The tray tilted. The orange juice glass slid across the surface, teetered on the edge, and then launched itself through the air in a perfect arc. Matt was checking something on his phone when the cold liquid hit him squarely in the chest. The juice splashed across his Red Sox t-shirt, dripped down his shorts, and even splattered onto his face. The glass shattered against the table edge, sending shards scattering across the floor. The entire cafe fell silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the coffee machine seemed to quiet its hissing. All eyes turned to the soaked man, and the horrified waitress frozen beside him. Emily's face went white, then red, then white again. Her hands flew to her mouth in horror. This was it. Her first day, and she'd just assaulted a customer with citrus. Janet would fire her on the spot. Her student loans would remain unpaid. Her parents' disappointment would be crushing. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to—" Matt sat there for a moment, orange juice dripping from his chin, his shirt completely soaked. Around them, phones began emerging from pockets and purses. The age of social media meant that every embarrassing moment was potential viral content. What happened next defied everyone's expectations. Matt calmly reached for the napkins on his table and began dabbing his face. Instead of anger, instead of the explosive reaction everyone anticipated, he started to chuckle. Not a bitter, sarcastic laugh, but a genuine, warm sound that cut through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. "Well," he said, looking down at his soaked shirt, "I guess I needed a vitamin C boost this morning." Emily stared at him in shock. Was he joking? After she'd just humiliated him in front of a dozen strangers? Matt stood up slowly, still smiling. The orange juice had stained his shirt a bright sticky orange and his shorts were soaked through. He looked ridiculous and he knew it, but instead of embarrassment or anger, he felt something unexpected. Relief. For the first time in months, maybe years, something completely unscripted had happened to him. Something real, human, and beautifully imperfect. No publicist could have planned this moment, no director could have staged it better. He looked at Emily, who was still frozen in horror, tears beginning to form in her eyes. She was young, probably working this job to pay for school or support her family. The last thing she needed was some entitled customer making her day worse. "Hey," he said gently, stepping closer. "It's okay, really. These things happen." "But your clothes," Emily started, her voice cracking. "We'll wash," Matt finished. "It's just orange juice, not battery acid. I've survived worse." Janet came rushing over, her face a mask of professional panic. "Sir, I am so incredibly sorry. This is her first day, and we'll absolutely cover your dry cleaning costs, and of course your meal is completely complimentary." Matt held up a hand to stop her. "That's really not necessary. Accidents happen. Your waitress was doing her best in a busy restaurant." He turned back to Emily, who was now openly crying from embarrassment and relief. "What's your name?" he asked, even though he'd read it on her name tag earlier. "Emily," she whispered. "Emily, I want you to take a deep breath. You didn't commit a crime, you spilled some juice. I've been covered in far worse things making movies, trust me." The crowd was still watching, phones still recording, but Matt's attention was entirely focused on the young woman in front of him. He could see his younger self in her eyes, the fear of failure, the desperate need to prove herself, the crushing weight of other people's expectations. In fact, he continued, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, I think Emily here deserves a round of applause for her ninja-like reflexes. Did you see how gracefully she avoided that gentleman's sudden movement? Most people would have dropped the entire tray. A few customers actually began to clap, uncertain but following his lead. Emily looked up at him in amazement. Was this stranger really turning her worst nightmare into something resembling a compliment? Matt pulled out his wallet, not to demand compensation, but to leave a tip that would make Emily's month. He placed a crisp $100 bill on the table, enough to cover his meal 10 times over. For excellent service, he said with a wink, and for providing the most entertaining breakfast I've had all year. What Matt didn't know was that at least 3 people had been recording the entire interaction. Sarah Chen, a food blogger at Table 5, had started filming when the juice first flew through the air, expecting to capture a typical customer meltdown for her Worst Service Ever series. Instead, she'd documented something entirely different. Marcus Thompson, a college student working on his laptop near the window, had instinctively grabbed his phone when he heard the glass shatter. As a film student, he recognized good storytelling when he saw it, and this interaction had all the elements of a perfect short film. And Linda Martinez, a local business owner having a meeting at Table 8, had been so moved by the stranger's kindness that she'd started recording to show her teenage daughter later. This is how real men handle difficult situations, she would tell her. As Matt left the cafe, still wearing his stained shirt like a badge of honor, he had no idea that his simple act of kindness was about to reach millions of people. Sarah was the first to post. Her video, titled Customer Gets Soaked at Cafe, His Response Will Restore Your Faith in Humanity, was uploaded to TikTok within minutes. She wrote, "This is how you handle an accident with grace. We need more people like this man in the world." The video caught fire immediately. Within the first hour, it had 1,000 views. By lunchtime, 50,000. By evening, it had crossed the 1,000,000 mark and was climbing fast. Comments poured in from around the world. This man is a king for how he handled this. The way he made her feel better instead of worse. We need more of this energy in 2024. Plot twist. Watch this guy turn out to be somebody famous. Lol. Meanwhile, Karen at Table 2 would have demanded a refund for her entire meal. Someone find this man and make him president. But it was Marcus who figured it out first. As a film student, he'd studied Matt Damon's work extensively. Something about the man's voice, his mannerisms, the way he carried himself, seemed familiar. He paused the video, zoomed in on the face, and nearly fell out of his chair. Holy shit, that was Matt Damon. Marcus immediately did what any college student would do. He called his roommate, posted on Reddit, and sent frantic messages to every group chat he was part of. Within minutes, the identification spread across social media like wildfire. The headlines began appearing on entertainment blogs within hours. Matt Damon's incredibly classy response to getting soaked at LA Cafe. Matt Damon shows us how to be human in viral cafe video. The reason Matt Damon's juice incident is breaking the internet. Major news outlets picked up the story by evening. Entertainment Tonight, TMZ, Good Morning America, everyone wanted to analyze the 30-second clip that had somehow captured the internet's heart. But the real story was just beginning to unfold. Emily had no idea she was famous until her phone started buzzing uncontrollably during her dinner break. Text messages, missed calls, friend requests, Instagram notifications. Her quiet digital life had exploded into chaos. Her best friend Mia was the first to call her back. "Emily, oh my God, are you seeing this? You're everywhere. The guy you spilled juice on, that was Matt Damon." "What?" Emily stared at her phone in confusion. "Matt who?" "Matt Damon. The actor? Good Will Hunting? The Martian? The Jason Bourne movies?" "Girl, you threw juice at one of the biggest movie stars in the world." Emily's legs gave out, and she had to sit down on the curb behind the cafe. This couldn't be real. The nice man with kind eyes, who'd made her feel better about her mistake, that was a celebrity? She pulled up the video on her phone and watched herself dump orange juice all over a Hollywood A-lister. Her stomach dropped. This was worse than she'd thought. She hadn't just embarrassed herself in front of cafe customers, she'd embarrassed herself in front of the entire internet. But as she read the comments, something surprising happened. People weren't mocking her, they were praising both her and Matt for the interaction. Comments like, "The way she was so genuinely sorry and how he was so kind, this is beautiful. She seems like such a sweet girl, and he's clearly a gentleman. This is what happens when good people meet good people." When Emily returned to work, Janet pulled her aside with an expression she couldn't read. "Emily, we need to talk." Here it comes, Emily thought. She's going to fire me for bringing negative attention to the restaurant. "I've been getting phone calls all afternoon," Janet continued, "from reporters, from bloggers, from people wanting to interview you. That video of you and the customer has gone viral." Emily nodded miserably. "I know. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I understand if you need to let me go." Janet's expression softened. "Let you go?" "Emily, honey, you've given this place the best publicity we've ever had. Our phones haven't stopped ringing with reservation requests. People want to eat where the nice waitress from the video works." She paused, then smiled. "I'm promoting you to shift supervisor, effective immediately. And that customer? He called this afternoon. He wants to make sure you're okay, and asked us to set up a scholarship fund for employees going to school. He's contributing the first $1,000. Emily stared at her in shock. The man she'd accidentally assaulted was helping her? 3 days after the incident, Emily found herself sitting across from Maria Santos, a reporter from Good Morning America, in a private dining room at Sunset Cafe. She'd never been on television before, never been interviewed by anyone more intimidating than her college newspaper. "So Emily," Maria began with a warm smile, "tell us what was going through your mind when you realized you'd just soaked a customer with orange juice." Emily fidgeted with her coffee cup. "Honestly, I thought my life was over. It was my first day, I was already nervous, and then I made this huge mess. I was sure I'd be fired, and I just felt so terrible for ruining someone's morning." "And you had no idea who he was?" "None whatsoever. To me, he was just this really nice guy who was being incredibly patient with a nervous waitress. He could have been anyone, a teacher, a businessman, someone's dad. The fact that he was famous never crossed my mind." Maria leaned forward. "What made the biggest impression on you about how he handled the situation?" Emily's eyes lit up as she remembered. "It was the way he looked at me. Not at the mess, not at his ruined clothes, but at me. Like he could see that I was struggling and he wanted to make sure I was okay. He turned what should have been my worst day into, well, not my best day, but definitely not my worst." The video shows him leaving a very generous tip. $100, Emily confirmed. "I'd never seen a tip that big in my life. But it wasn't just the money. It was what he said. He told everyone within earshot that I had excellent service and made me feel like I'd done something right instead of something wrong. What would you say to him if he were here right now?" Emily looked directly into the camera. "Thank you. Thank you for showing me that there are still genuinely kind people in the world. Thank you for turning what could have been a nightmare into a lesson about grace and humanity. And thank you for setting up that scholarship fund. You've changed so many lives already." The interview aired the next morning and was picked up by news outlets around the world. But more importantly, it reached Matt Damon, who was watching from his home office in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He'd been dealing with the aftermath of the viral video for days. Interview requests, social media mentions, business associates joking about his juice bath. But watching Emily's interview, seeing her genuine gratitude and hearing her perspective on their interaction, moved him more than any movie review or business success ever had. He realized that in trying to experience life as a regular person, he'd accidentally become the person he'd always hoped to be, someone who used whatever influence he had to make the world a little bit better. That evening, Emily was studying for her online business classes when her phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. She'd been getting random calls from reporters and internet strangers for days, but something made her pick up. Hello, is this Emily Rodriguez? The voice was familiar, though she couldn't place it immediately. Yes, this is Emily. Hi, Emily, this is Matt Damon. From the cafe the other day? Emily nearly dropped her phone. Oh my God, hi. I mean, hello, Mr. Damon. I can't believe you're calling me, Matt chuckled. Just Matt is fine. I wanted to call personally to check on you. I saw your interview this morning, and I was incredibly impressed by how you handled everything. This whole situation has been pretty overwhelming, I imagine. It has been surreal, Emily admitted, but in mostly good ways. My boss promoted me, I've gotten interview requests from companies I never thought would notice me, and strangers have been so kind online. It's like this whole different world opened up. That's wonderful to hear. You handled that interview with such grace and maturity. I also wanted to talk to you about the scholarship fund. Emily's heart skipped. The scholarship fund you set up? Mr. Damon, Matt, I don't know how to thank you. That's going to help so many people. Actually, I was hoping you might help me with it. The fund has grown beyond what I expected. Other people have been contributing, businesses want to sponsor it, and I think it needs someone who understands what it's like to work these jobs while trying to build a future. What are you saying? I'm saying I'd like to offer you a position helping to run the foundation. It would mean leaving the restaurant, working with our team to identify recipients, sharing your story to inspire others, and helping young people navigate the challenges you've been through. Emily was quiet for so long that Matt wondered if the call had dropped. Emily, are you there? I'm here, she whispered. I just can't believe this is happening. A week ago, I was terrified of losing a minimum wage job, and now you're offering me a chance to help other people? You've already been helping people, Emily. That video, your interview, the way you've handled this whole situation, you've shown millions of people what resilience and grace look like. This would just be making it official. 3 months later, Emily stood on a stage in downtown Los Angeles, looking out at an audience of young professionals, students, and service industry workers. The Second Chances Foundation was officially launching, and she was giving the keynote speech. Matt sat in the front row, beaming with pride. The foundation had grown beyond their wildest expectations. Corporate sponsors had contributed millions, celebrities had offered their support, and most importantly, they'd already awarded scholarships to over 200 young people working in service jobs while pursuing their education. 6 months ago, Emily began, her voice steady and confident, I was a nervous college graduate who thought spilling orange juice on a customer was the end of the world. I had no idea that moment of clumsiness would lead to this. The audience laughed, and Emily felt the familiar warmth of connecting with people through storytelling. But here's what I learned. Our worst moments don't define us. How we respond to them does. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, those moments connect us with people who see our potential even when we can't see it ourselves. She looked at Matt, who gave her an encouraging nod. The Second Chances Foundation isn't just about money for school, though that's incredibly important. It's about recognizing that everyone deserves dignity in their work, that kindness costs nothing but changes everything, and that sometimes the people serving your coffee or cleaning your office or delivering your food are working toward dreams bigger than you could imagine. The speech was a hit, but more importantly, it marked the beginning of a movement. Second Chances Challenge began trending on social media, with people sharing stories of kindness in service industries and contributing to the foundation. Emily had found her calling, and Matt had rediscovered his purpose, beyond entertainment and business success. 1 year after the juice incident, Sunset Cafe was hosting a special event. The Anniversary of Kindness celebration had been Emily's idea, a chance to bring together everyone whose lives had been touched by that viral moment. The cafe was packed with scholarship recipients, donors, local business owners, and media representatives. Janet had hired extra staff for the evening, including several former scholarship recipients who were now working part-time while attending school. Matt arrived not as a celebrity, but as a friend. He'd become a regular at the cafe over the past year, often stopping by to chat with Emily about foundation business or just to enjoy a quiet coffee without fanfare. Can you believe it's been a whole year? Emily asked, joining him at their usual table by the window. Feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago at the same time, Matt replied. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't spilled that juice? Emily considered the question seriously. I probably would have finished my shift, gone home, and never thought about that nice customer again. I'd still be working here, struggling to make ends meet, dreaming about maybe someday starting my own business. And I would have finished my coffee, gone home, and forgotten about the sweet waitress who was trying so hard on her first day, Matt added. I'd still be feeling disconnected from the real world, wondering why success felt so empty. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the celebration around them. Scholarship recipients were sharing their stories, donors were meeting the students they'd sponsored, and the room buzzed with the energy of people whose lives had been genuinely improved. You know what the best part is? Emily said finally. What's that? This isn't about us anymore. Look around. All these people are here because they believe in giving others second chances. That one moment of clumsiness started something so much bigger than either of us. Matt smiled. That's the thing about kindness. It multiplies in ways you never expect. As if on cue, a young man approached their table. Excuse me, are you Emily and Matt? They nodded, and the young man's face lit up. I'm Carlos. I got one of your scholarships last semester. I'm studying to be a social worker, and I wanted to thank you both, not just for the money, but for showing me that one person's kindness can change everything. After Carlos walked away, Matt turned to Emily with a grin. So, think we should recreate the moment for old time's sake? I could bring a glass of orange juice over here. Emily laughed and playfully swatted at him. Don't you dare. I've gotten much better at carrying trays. Thank you very much. 2 years later, the Second Chances Foundation had become a national organization. Emily, now the executive director, was featured on the cover of Forbes' 30 Under 30 issue. Matt had stepped back from day-to-day operations but remained actively involved as chairman of the board. The foundation had awarded over 5,000 scholarships, partnered with major corporations to improve worker benefits in service industries, and created mentorship programs connecting established professionals with young people starting their careers. But perhaps more importantly, it had sparked a cultural shift. The Kindness Matters movement had inspired millions of small acts of compassion around the world. Restaurants began offering dignity training to help customers treat service workers with respect. Universities created programs specifically for working students, and countless individuals found ways to pay forward kindness in their daily lives. Emily was giving a TED Talk in New York when she reflected on the journey that had brought her there. 3 years ago, I was a scared young woman who thought making a mistake meant failing at life. Today, I run a foundation that has helped thousands of people pursue their dreams while working to support themselves and their families. She paused, looking out at the audience of entrepreneurs, activists, and changemakers. But here's the real lesson. That transformation didn't happen because of money or fame or viral videos. It happened because one person chose kindness over anger, understanding over judgment, and saw potential where I could only see failure. She clicked to a slide showing the original viral video, Matt, soaked in orange juice, smiling at a mortified Emily. This moment taught me that our responses to unexpected situations reveal who we really are, and that sometimes the most ordinary moments can become extraordinary if we choose to meet them with grace. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. After the talk, Emily was approached by a teenage girl who looked nervous but determined. Mrs. Rodriguez? I'm Sophia. I work at a fast food restaurant while I'm in high school, and I applied for one of your scholarships. I just wanted to say, watching your story made me believe that my dreams matter, even if I'm just flipping burgers right now. Emily smiled, remembering her own fears and insecurities from just a few years before. Sophia, let me tell you something important. You're not just anything. You're a young woman working hard to build her future, and that takes incredible strength and determination. She handed Sophia her business card. Whether you get the scholarship or not, I want you to stay in touch. Your dreams absolutely matter, and I believe you're going to achieve amazing things. As Sophia walked away with tears in her eyes, Emily felt the familiar warmth of connection that had become the driving force of her life. She thought about Matt, probably at home in Cambridge, reading scripts or working on his next business venture, but always making time to review scholarship applications and attend foundation events. She thought about all the young people whose lives had been changed by a moment of accidental clumsiness and intentional kindness. She thought about the cafes and restaurants where managers now encouraged their staff to treat every customer interaction as an opportunity for grace, and every mistake as a chance for growth. Most of all, she thought about the power of choosing kindness, even when, especially when, it would be easier to choose anger or indifference. The girl who had once been afraid of spilling juice had learned to make waves instead. Thank you so much for joining me on Emily and Matt's incredible journey. This story reminds us that kindness is never wasted, that our worst moments can become our greatest opportunities, and that sometimes a simple choice to respond with grace instead of anger can change not just 2 lives, but thousands. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their dreams matter, no matter where they're starting from. And remember, we all have the power to be someone's Matt Damon, turning their difficult moment into a stepping stone towards something beautiful. Until next time, keep spreading kindness and keep believing in second chances. You never know whose life you might change with a simple act of compassion.